I did want to talk about something. This is not a usual Blind Mike Project topic, but it's something I've been thinking about a lot this week, as you see in the title. I wanted to talk about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, because this is not my general wheelhouse. I don't want to get on a soapbox about it. You're not going to see me weep or pretend that Charlie Kirk meant a lot to me. But he ultimately, what he represents does mean a lot to me. And I think that's why I was spending so much time thinking about it. And I owe a lot of people that watch this show, I think, an apology. Because if you go back to the early days of this program, and even before, when I was just on Kirk's show, or no one falls into this category, but if you read blogs I wrote years ago and things like that, you would know that I'm a big I was a big fighter of cancel culture. That was an issue I did and do care very, very deeply about. And I'm amazed more podcasters and radio people and people in the media, I'm amazed that divides political lines. I've never understood why that was something that became like a right versus left issue. I think if you talk for a living, you should be against Daniel Tosh having to apologize for a joke, or Shane Gillis getting fired from SNL, or people going after Tony Hinchcliffe or Gilbert Gottfried or Anthony Cumia, or the man versus food guy for old tweets, or James Gunn, or these countless things over the years. And I got away from that for a while because I wasn't having as much fun with it. There's a couple of reasons I got away from it. Mainly because I wasn't having as much fun with it. I thought I was getting too angry about it and repeating myself a lot, to the point where I was even seeing comments where people were like, all right, Mike, we got it. And I was being defined by people that don't know me that well. I remember KFC from Barstool describing me as a guy that is always looking for cancel culture topics to bitch about. And I was surprised by that. I was surprised when people that don't know me that well summarized me that way. It was kind of surprising when that first happened. But the other reason I got away from it, and this is what I want to semi-apologize for in a way, is that I started to say a lot that we had turned a corner. Like, I thought this was a Cold War for now. When you see things like Shane Gillis, I always point to Shane as a big turning point, where I felt like when he hosted SNL, that was kind of the industry apologizing for what they did to him. And to me, you started to see more. Netflix wasn't removing Chappelle's special, even though they were protested, and Kill Tony got a deal even after the Trump rally stuff. And so I would say a lot that we had turned a corner, and people would argue with me. And a lot of these people don't know my feelings on it, where they would say, well, Mike doesn't understand the long-lasting repercussions that this sort of cancel culture could have. Meaning, their point being like, hey, when you go after someone like this in the manner that they did, try to take away their job, protest them, whatever, that it will cause the next guy not even to attempt that material. And people would say that to me. That's why I say, people that didn't follow me that long didn't know that I was saying that till I was blue in the face. If you go back and watch old episodes of the show or anything else I did, that's a mantra I would repeat over and over again. And I got away from that. And I wrongly forgot how important that was to preach, I think. And we got to a place in this country where people would say, well, who's really been canceled? And, they would point to guys I just mentioned, like Gillis or Hinchcliffe or whoever, or even like Louis C.K., and say, like, these guys are doing better than ever now. Not realizing the effect it has on their lives, on their families' lives, people attacking them, whatever. And these were debates I would get in that I started to get sick of. Now we have, unfortunately, the greatest example of who has actually been canceled. I hope the only example that we ever get like that, where a guy lost his life because he goes to college campuses and debates whether or not kids should get fucking hormone therapy. The guy lost his life for doing that, for having those conversations, for saying he doesn't believe in abortion. That's why a man was shot, and people celebrated that. So if you want to know what cancel culture is, it's exactly that. It's this idea that we want to ruin you. And you see it in different ways, even still. And this is where I'm saying I was wrong to get away from this, because even something as silly as the lady at the Phillies game a few weeks ago, where she was a bitch and took a baseball from a kid or something like that, and America's instinct is to ruin her life. And that's the instinct I'm talking about when I say cancel culture. For me, it was never a political issue. And I think I got nervous or uncomfortable with the idea that me talking about cancel culture would lump me into some political box. I didn't like that. That people felt that means I voted one way or another, or that I felt this way about other issues because I would talk about cancel culture. And that's sort of a pussy move of me to be worried about that, to be worried about what other people think of me. But we do live in a society now where, based on what you think, you could get shot in the streets. You could get shot in front of a crowd of people that are there to talk to you about your opinions. You can get shot for those same opinions that they all showed up to hear or debate or discuss. And that's what was really gross to me about last week with the Charlie Kirk thing. I knew very little about Charlie Kirk a week ago. I knew he was a right-wing influencer that would go to these colleges to debate people. And I got to tell you, based on the media portrayal of him, I would have thought he was a much more evil guy than or much angrier guy than we know him to be now. What they wanted to do is paint him as a villain after he died and go, look at all these things he said about trans people. Look at these things he said about blacks. Look at these things he said about abortion, which is a disgusting tactic to say, well, this is why he should have died. That was gross to me that I started seeing videos like that. But then when I started watching them, it was far scarier than I ever could have imagined, because I watched the videos and I go, oh, Charlie Kirk was a relatively level-headed guy. He was not some of these guys I talk about. Like, I've made fun of Nick Fuentes before, and I was actually happy to see Nick Fuentes at a pretty reasonable response to all this, because they tried to lump him and his fans into this whole mess. But there are people that are extremists, and I don't know if Fuentes is one of those guys, but I know like Gavin McInnes is a provocateur, or Milo Yiannopoulos. Like, they don't even necessarily believe all the things they say. They're trying to get a reaction out of people. The videos I watch of Charlie Kirk are not that at all. He thinks that life starts at conception, which listen, my thought on abortion is different than Charlie Kirk's, but he didn't have an unreasonable take, and it would be hard for me to argue against him, given the point of view he has. I think that's a pretty reasonable take that he has on that. And you can chop up videos of him talking about black people or whatever to make it seem like he's this nut. Even if you want to take those on face value, if you want to pretend you don't have a brain and you can't decipher what he's actually saying in those videos, even if you want to take those, there's no video you can show me where you're going to get me to believe that he should have died last week because of his opinion on race or abortion or guns. And to the people that say, like, show videos, I just retweeted a Jack Mack video. I didn't weigh in on this on Twitter. I don't think it does a lot of good. But I did retweet a Jack Mack video, and I started getting replies just from that of people going, "You don't know who this guy is? Oh my God." And the worst of the people, I almost applaud the people more that own it at TMZ, that are laughing gleefully at TMZ and that you see on TikTok and all these other outlets. I almost respect them more, however little that still is. I almost respect them more than the people like Stephen Colbert, who get on their show and give this fake statement of, hey, political violence is never good, no matter what it is. Because they always couch it with, hey, I didn't agree with Charlie Kirk. Do you need to say that on the day he's assassinated? That he's shot for his beliefs? Do you need to say that you don't agree with him? Should that even be mentioned? And that's what's terrifying about this. I thought Bill Maher had a very good quote where he said, you know, people talk about this being a left versus right issue. I think it's getting to be the people who want a war versus the people that don't. And people like me that don't give a fuck what your opinion on abortion is or race or DEI or any of that bullshit. I don't care what you think about it. I think we live in a country where Charlie Kirk can, no matter what, have his wife or daughter or the women in his lives, he can convince them to carry a baby to term because he believes that's the right thing to do. And he lives in the same country that someone can also get an abortion if they want. I think that's terrific. I don't know why you need to convince someone so desperately that you are right about that issue to the point where you work yourself up into homicidal rage. That is a problem with the internet that I think we've been far too relaxed on. This idea that people that get mad on the internet, mad on Twitter or YouTube comments or whatever, this idea that those people don't exist, we're now seeing isn't true. There are people that think they live in a fucking video game and that life doesn't matter. And this 22-year-old fucking maniac doesn't understand the consequences of his life. And the idea that we rushed, like Craig is very excited that the guy's girlfriend's a tranny. Everyone gets very excited for that. And other people were excited that his parents were Republican. Like that matters at all. What was obvious the moment Charlie Kirk died, whether it was a Nick Fuentes supporter or some crazy liberal or whatever, what was very obvious is that a man got shot in the neck because of what he was saying and what the beliefs are in his head. And that should be horrifying to everyone that has an opinion on any matter. Like, it might be silly of a podcaster like me to be worried about that when I cover Stuttering John from the Howard Stern show. You might think it's crazy and delusional of me to be worried about that. But the reason I get worried about it is because I look at a guy like John and like Aaron and like other people on the internet that when they get their feelings hurt, their instinct is to give out people's last names and their addresses and where they work. Now, I don't know why you would do that unless you're saying, I want something bad to happen to them. So for all these people that are like, how can someone in society do this? Well, how about it's all the litany of compilations that call Trump a Nazi and these people need to be stopped, stop them at any cost. Republicans are all correct to point those out because for the last 10 years, it has been a discussion of we need to stop these people by any means necessary, culminating with other people on the internet being so thirsty for revenge, where you do give out people's last names and their addresses and all this personal information. And the only reason you want to do that is because people want violence. And I think we're in a place because of the internet that people don't understand the consequences of their actions. And it's scary, even to someone who lives in a silly internet world like myself. I think if you're someone, the people that laughed at Charlie Kirk dying, that's obvious. They're scumbags. Fuck them. But I even think if you're someone that when the Charlie Kirk conversation comes up and you go, well, he was a racist. Well, he was a misogynist, whatever. First of all, you don't fucking know the guy. Watch the video of his wife talking about what an amazing husband he was. You know what I mean? Like, if that's what women in his life think of him, I don't give a fuck what a stranger on TikTok thought of the guy. So I want those people to know that Charlie Kirk is a hero now. And not even necessarily because of anything he did, other than him living his life and the way he died. And people like you that hate him and are trying to make him into the villain, you're making him a hero. because to me, what he will always represent is a guy that had his opinion. He wasn't afraid to talk about it and try and change other people's minds and let those same people change his mind. I'm sure Charlie had his heels dug in on a lot of these issues, but if someone showed up and came up with the right assembly of words to change his mind, maybe he would have gone, I never thought of it that way. So it was really sickening to me. And the other thing that bothers me, and the reason I wanted to talk about it today, is because I know it's going to be an issue, and I'll be guilty of this at some point as well, where much like the Trump shooting, much like Jeffrey Epstein, much like any of these things, in a couple days we'll stop giving that much of a fuck about it. I'm sure people already have in some circles. So I wanted to talk about it today at the very least, and I do want to make more of an effort when some of these stories come up, because the idea that cancel culture is dead in any way is clearly silly. It is at an all-time terrifying point because a guy just lost his life for giving his opinions. There's no other way you can spin it to me, no matter how hateful he is. And there's plenty of videos online already where people are like, well, he was a bad guy. Did he ever threaten anyone's life? Did he ever harm anyone physically? All Charlie Kirk is guilty of, at worst, is having bad opinions. And he lost his life for that. And his kids had to watch that. His wife had to watch it. There's a video online that will be there forever. You can try, Twitter and Google and all these outlets can try and delete it. It's there for people to watch. I think I'm lucky in the sense that I can't see it. But everyone I've heard from it shook them. The idea that you were able to see that. Now, there's all sorts of conspiracy theories that people throw out. I don't know anything about Tyler Robinson. I don't know anything about what involvement Israel could have had or anything like that. But what I do know is, at the very least, if this is some sort of conspiracy, the American public have put themselves in a position to be used like this. The reason any conspiracy exists is because morons will work themselves up into such a tizzy where people are celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. And they were able to manipulate society because of that. So even if it's a conspiracy, you're a moron for letting yourself get into that position. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what I wanted to say about it. It's something I thought about all week. Like I said, it's not my usual wheelhouse. I'm sure I did a poor job at articulating my thoughts. But I wanted to get that off my chest and talk about it because I think it's an important thing to talk about. And it's an issue I've been passionate about for a long time. And I kind of let myself get complacent on it. And that really jarred me awake. So now we'll have Craig on to tell us why the trans are responsible for this. Go ahead.
Well, when you suck that sweet, sweet tranny dick, it just makes you do anything they say.
Craig was so excited last night. He's dating a tranny. I was like, settle down. We'll get to it tomorrow.
We turned a lot of rocks over to find the evidence, but we ended up coming across.
We got there.
We got there. Yeah, dude. That was pretty well said. I don't know what else to add to it, really. Besides, you are correct. It was one of the grossest videos I've ever seen. Like I thought it was AI.
Well, the reaction was grosser to me because of that. Like the idea that you could watch a guy's fucking neck get blown out and go, well, he did have this thought on abortion. That's fucking, it's sickening that people reacted like that. And I don't know. I just had to get it off my chest, I guess.
Yeah. Like this, I felt nauseous. It was gruesome, but like,
yeah,
the worst thought, like you said, is like his kids are going to see their dad get shot in the neck. Yeah. There's no avoiding it.
And the worst, and I know, Craig, believe me, I'm one of you guys now. I don't have my MAGA hat. It's coming in the mail. I don't have it yet. I would have worn it today.
Yeah.
But what this could lead to, I'm not saying it will. And I know the trannies are responsible for every gun death. Believe you me. But what this could lead to is someone doing it on the other side. You know what I mean? And it just gets so
not gonna happen.
Like we're devolving into a place like that. I hope it doesn't.
It won't.
But that's the scary thing about it.
It won't. What you might see is someone from the left shooting one of their own, claiming to be on the right to do that. But you're not going to actually see someone from the right do that. They're not that stupid.
Well, good. I appreciate you guys keeping us safe.
Go to blindmike.net for everything Blind Mike. Look at me. I did it. Kragers did it.